If you're investing out of state, just know the wrong team can kill your chances of success. And I don't say that lightly because I've seen the people hiring the wrong realtor, property manager, lender, contractor, and they not only lose time, but they also lose a lot of money. And it's especially painful when that wrong team member is themselves. So in today's video, I'm going to share how you can build a profitable rental property portfolio with an investment-friendly real estate team and be able to sleep so well at night. So let's get started. I'm Veronica Woods. If you're new to the Real Estate Wisdom channel, welcome, where I provide tips about how to build and maintain a profitable rental property portfolio. And I do so not just as a real estate investor myself, who owns several rental properties in the Philadelphia area, but also as the member of the A team for a number of clients. So as a broker and a professional property manager, I help my clients scale and see their dreams come true, getting passive income through rental properties. Now, this video is the third video in a series that I put together for out-of-state investors who also happen to be very busy professionals. So that means you don't have time to be babysitting contractors, and you definitely don't have time to be driving around for dollars, as they say. So in the first two videos, we covered the myths associated with investing out of state, and we also talked about selecting the right metro. So these are kind of the first mindset and practical hurdles you have to get over to invest in real estate, especially, like I said, across country. So in this video, we're going to talk about the how, the what, and the who you need on that investment A team. Now, we covered some of the why in earlier videos because I know one big obstacle to getting started is believing that putting together that team is just impossible if you're not in the same geographic area. First, let's talk about the team that is needed. So let's be clear, you need an investor-friendly real estate team. Now, many of you are saying like, oh, I know who I need on my team. I need a realtor that's going to help me buy the property. I need a lender that's going to help me get the mortgage, fund that purchase. I need a contractor to do the repairs that I envision needed before making the property rent ready. Then I'll need a property manager who's going to find my first tenant. Got that. But what you need to know is that you need to have the term investor friendly in front of each of those roles. Now, a property manager, most of the time they're working with investors. So you think of them as investor friendly, but what does investor friendly really mean? So I came up with kind of a basic definition of a professional that has the skills and resources to support someone in buying a property that they may never live in themselves. They may never even see themselves. So that's, my rough definition of investor friendly. And the problem is you can say you're investor friendly but not really be it. So it's one of these things where you really have to interview people, ask a lot of questions. That's what I kind of coach my clients through, is asking questions so that you can elicit more real response to know if they're really investor friendly or not. With your questions, you want to get at these basic 5 areas of experience or traits that I came up with. So the first is, are they looking for a long-term relationship or just a transaction? So you want a professional that's looking more for a transaction. They care about what they're getting paid, and they care about just getting a volume and putting, a ticker on the scoreboard of another deal, another loan, another job. And so if they're more worried about their bottom line of just getting another notch on their belt of a transaction, sometimes it's hard to give the best advice when you're just trying to just get you closed and whatever loan that's on the table. The second trait is kind of the level of professionalism and communication, and that's with you as well as collaborating with other potential people on your team. So that goes beyond just answering the phone or responding to a text, but how deep is the insight that they're sharing with you? How timely? How are they actually communicating across your team? Because from my experience working with investors and some deals that really had some wacky things that we had to navigate, having professionals talk amongst each other and picking up the phone, when something happens and working together to solve the problem is really important with each transaction. And each transaction is different. The third thing is experience working with tenant occupied properties. So, not every property is vacant, and there's definitely different nuances involved with working around a tenant schedule, whether they're on their way out or evaluating whether they should stay or be on the way out. So asking questions about having a tenant occupied property in the process is important. The next one is their ability to give you solid data for your assumptions. So take for example, that you need to get a budget together. You need rent comps. You need sales comps. All these things may be needed sooner than you feel comfortable in comfortable or confident in the number is accurate. So, for example, is your contractor willing to go to a property with you in the due diligence process to help you give a better budget to the lender who's going to help you get approved for the construction loan? Are they at least willing to figure out a way for you to give them pictures or videos for them to give you a rough estimate? So again, their ability to kind of take their knowledge and put it in a bite-sized package for you to digest and make better decisions is really important. And the last thing, just to come up with 5, and again, these are all things that need to come about in your interview questions. But another thing is just kind of understanding how deep they really understand the nuances of working with investors. And this could come, I know it's kind of like an esoteric way of saying it, but just make it more practical. Like if you're a realtor, do you know the questions, the deal negotiating deal points that you need to have in the contract to protect your interest as a landlord versus someone who's going to live in the house? Does your loan officer understand the nuances of the various loan products and what that's going to mean to your cash flow and your ability to get loans for future deals going forward? Again, you can see this is not a simple do you work with investors question. So that's why in my rental property playbook, I give folks a list of questions, a cheat sheet of questions that help you kind of get under the hood about their level of sophistication of working with investors. And it's clear if you can't answer certain questions or kind of stop and look like a deer in headlight when you hear about a 1031 exchange, quite frankly, they probably haven't done a lot of work with investors. Now, there may be some team members that you don't really know that you need. One is a real estate attorney. Now, that answer is really it depends. So, if you're in the state like New Jersey, real estate attorneys are involved very early on in the process. Everybody has an attorney. But in Pennsylvania, that is not the case. And so, if you're one of those states where a real estate attorney isn't as involved, then you may think, well, I don't need an attorney. But the time to get an attorney that can help you in some sort of landlord tenant dispute is not when you're at your wits' end and the tenant is 6 months behind in rent. So you want to kind of have some resources available to you before you kind of are marching down to landlord tenant court. The second person is that you may not know that you need is a financial advisor. Now, a lot of people think of financial advisors as people who can only help you in terms of the stock market or maybe even just buying their first home. But, quite frankly, there a lot of people just aren't as educated in real estate as an asset class that's a part of their financial portfolio. But when you find one that is real estate investor friendly, they really can help you think bigger picture about what your real estate portfolio can do for you over time. Now, there's two other people that you may need to upgrade. So you may already have them with your residential property, but maybe you need someone else as you enter the realm of investing in real estate. One is your CPA. Just like as you start any other business, the accountant that you had when you didn't have a business is not the same one that you may use when you have, if you're an entrepreneur, your own business. And the same thing with real estate, because there's some nuances that you want to make sure that your CPA is knowledgeable enough for you to take advantage of, especially at tax time. And also your insurance agent. So you have a different relationship with your property insurer when you have rental properties, because there's much more risk that you're trying to mitigate with. So again, these are people that you'll have on your extended team, and you want to also make sure that they are just as investor friendly as the people that you work with in the beginning of the process. So let's talk about when you need these folks. The short answer is before you really need them, because if you're trying to find these various professionals, and I think I mentioned 6 or 7, I lost count in this video. If you try to find them when you just in time, sometimes you make rush decisions and it adds a lot more stress in the process. So that's why in the rental property playbook, I outline how you can kind of break it up within the first few weeks of kind of getting your real estate journey going. You don't need to get everybody at once, but you do need to kind of methodically kind of get through and make sure, before you're putting in an offer, that you have those first 4 or 5 people together so that you can get really timely input. Now, most people are aware that they need to get their realtor picked out so that they can put in the offer, and they need a proof of funds, so they need to get a lender before they submit a deal. But there's something to be said of actually building somewhat of a relationship with them early on, especially your lender. Because I found, and it's being on the other side as a listing agent, and having a lender that could really advocate for their client in terms of their background, their strength as a buyer to get to the closing table. And if you don't know the person, they just can't do that for you. So why not, really be able to have everyone on your team be able to help in the process to get the property that you want. Now, what people underestimate is the people that you need in the due diligence period, because the due diligence period is really important. You have a fixed amount of time to uncover any problems that will allow you to parachute out of the deal and keep your earnest money deposit. So managing that due diligence time, it's not about dreaming about I'll just wait until the end and then I'll figure things out. And that's definitely a sign of somebody who's not investor friendly. You want to have even, let's say, I mentioned about the contractor giving you input on the assumptions on the budget early. But then there's the matter of the property manager. So you kind of want to have a property manager picked out before you close. They not only can give you rental comps, but you also want to get a sense of how hard is it going to be to rent the property in that area? Do they want to manage property in that area? Because let's say you're hearing a lot of no's that people don't want to manage the property for you in that area. Now, I will say you probably can get somebody to manage just about any property, but I would say there'll be some red flags if you're getting a lot of like, I'm not sure if we can manage that for you, or the property manager doesn't seem as excited to manage it for you. Don't you want to know that beforehand? You don't want to kind of find out that problem after the property is in your name. You want to make sure that you have someone that could, quite frankly, hit the ground running on day one of your ownership. There's been times where we've closed in the morning and I'm meeting a contractor in the afternoon for one of my clients, just not to waste any time in getting a property rent ready. Now let's talk about how to find these folks. Now the obvious thing is probably referrals, right? The most popular thing. So you ask your friends, you ask people in other investor networks. So you have online networks like Bigger Pockets, you have Facebook groups that have folks who invest in different areas sharing resources. You have local real estate investment association groups. You don't have to be there locally to tap into that. If you are able to identify them, you can contact one of the club officers and they would be more than happy to probably give you referrals, probably multiple referrals in each category. Now, some other things to think about is once you get that first lead domino on your team, and that may be your lender, or that may be the realtor, you can ask them for referrals. I find that's a great way of kind of having an automatic team at once, because we work together over and over again. So we've already kind of interviewed and vetted some of these folks by experience. We're not going to just pick our cousin, right, or brother just to give them a job. There's some high stakes in us getting it right with a referral of people that we have to work with. So I think really asking for referrals from kind of like the first domino is really important, which is why you kind of have to trust that first person and have it more relationship driven versus transaction. Another thing to think about is just looking at people's presence online and social media and places like YouTube. Who's talking about working with investors, showing and educating people about investment real estate? I mean, quite frankly, that's why I'm doing this YouTube video right now, is because I know that there's people out of state. They're looking to see, for potential people to work with in my market, and they want to get a feel for, is this somebody that I want to talk to? Obviously, everybody's not going to be your cup of tea, but at least you can see, each professional in their element, and kind of get a sense of what it would be like working with them. Speaking of online, you want to take a look at some online reviews. Pay particular attention to the specific words of comments, not just stars, because I think that really what you're looking for is insight on the flavor of what it would be like to work with different people. So to wrap up, it's really important to note that when you're interviewing and trying to find your team, each of these potential team members is also interviewing you. So you want to show up and like you're going to be a good client. That means that you communicate your goals. You're prepared for each next step. You're taking the process seriously, and you're committed to getting down the road with your real estate journey. Because at the end of the day, your team is going to be critical to your success of building that profitable rental property portfolio. Mentioned they're going to start by helping you with your assumptions as you're running your numbers in your spreadsheet, and then they'll take it further. They'll take that spreadsheet and make it happen in real life, so that you make money not just on paper but in the bank, right? So that's important, which segues into the next video. We're going to talk about, how to run the numbers deal by deal and exercising that muscle of evaluating deals and figuring out what you should pass and where you should proceed. So as always, thanks for watching and happy investing.